When this woman was burying her daughter Olivia, she saw a blister around her lips, but you won't believe what happened next. Linda, like any mother, wanted the best life for her daughter Olivia. She had already laid the foundation so her daughter could easily climb the ladder of success. She owned the successful beauty bar and several restaurants around the village, and she planned to give them all to her daughter someday. So all Olivia had to do was show that she was up to the task. Sadly, Olivia, 21, didn't see things that way and often acted like the over-pampered child that she was. Unfortunately for her, it would take a very tragic incident for her to learn that life isn't a bed of roses. Linda endured her daughter's lackadaisical attitude toward her career because she thought she would outgrow it someday. However, she would often have sleepless nights because of her daughter's approach to relationships. Linda believed it was best for a woman to get married and start having kids early, but Olivia didn't necessarily see things that way. She felt she was still young and didn't want to be tied down to a man and some kids. "I will get married when I want to. It's the 21st century," she screamed at her mother one night, slammed the door in her face, and rushed into her room to chat with her boyfriends. You see, Olivia was a pretty woman and often turned heads wherever she went. She also enjoyed the attention she got from men, so she had about 2 to 3 boyfriends, but she didn't want anything serious with these men, at least not yet. And even if she would get married someday, it would most likely not be with any of those guys she was presently in a relationship with. However, each guy had a role to play in her life. Olivia met Brian about a year before and was immediately attracted to him. He had a great physique, but he wasn't as tall as she would have liked him to be, but she paid no attention to that, at least for the first few months. A few days after they met, Olivia got into bed with Brian, and everything was perfect for a while. But afterward, her feelings for him began to fade. She didn't like his controlling behavior, and then his height became an issue too. However, she did like one thing about him, the way he spent his money on her, and that's why she stayed with him. He would often buy her expensive clothes, bags, and shoes. They would often go on luxury vacations and stay for weeks at 5-star hotels. Besides this, they also had fun in bed. Then there was John. John was Olivia's go-to guy whenever she needed to feel genuinely loved and pampered. They had attended the same university, and John later worked as a nurse in one of the local hospitals in the village. Olivia knew John would do anything for her, even going as far as taking a bullet for her, but she took his love for granted. She didn't like the way he would always confess his feelings to her whenever he got the chance. She hated the way he was desperate for attention and affection. Worst of all was his submissive nature. Why didn't he ever say no to her? Why didn't he act tough sometimes, just a little? Why did he say sorry whenever she offended him? I mean, all the time. Can't you just pretend to be tough sometimes? Can't you just pretend to be a real man? She screamed at him one night, asked him to get lost, and ended the call. But the next day, John came over to her house with her favorite chocolate, and Olivia, who was feeling a bit sad that morning, decided to use John's presence to get over the way she was feeling. After all, he wasn't all that bad. He could crack jokes that would have her rolling on the floor laughing. He could even make lunch and maybe teach her some dance steps. So she welcomed him with a big smile and took him to her room. Just as she had expected, John taught her some dance moves, and afterward, Olivia suggested they play a game of truth or dare. You see, Olivia loved flirting with men, and she enjoyed seeing them go crazy about her. But little did she know that what she was about to do would backfire on her. A few minutes into the game, Olivia dared John to kiss her. The young man couldn't believe his ears. He began stuttering, and his heart began racing very fast as he leaned toward her to kiss her. Seeing his reaction, Olivia beamed. She thought the kiss would last only a few seconds, but much to her surprise, she found herself grasping his arms and begging him not to stop kissing her. Well, they ended up making love. To Olivia, it was unplanned and meant nothing at all, but for John, it was special and made him feel even more connected to her. 2 weeks after this incident, Olivia found out that she was pregnant, and for once, she regretted her lifestyle. She felt disappointed in herself, but what was even more troubling was that she didn't know who the father of the child was. Just a few days before she went to bed with John, she had visited Brian, and they had also been intimate. Olivia regretted her actions, and if she could, she wished she could turn back the hands of time so she could act more responsibly. Since Olivia went to bed with Brian first, she felt he was responsible for the pregnancy, so she called him on the phone and broke the news to him. But while she was expecting him to scream, deny the pregnancy, or just do something absolutely insane, he was calm, and he told her he couldn't wait to be a father. He asked her to come over to his house the next day so they could have a proper celebration. The next day, at about 7 p.m., Olivia went over to Brian's house, and after welcoming her, he poured her a drink. A few minutes after taking the drink, Olivia became dizzy, and she felt like her stomach was on fire. "What did you do to me?" Olivia gasped. Just then, Brian confessed to her that he was happily married with kids abroad and didn't want any more children, at least not with a loose girl like her. Olivia didn't even hear the last part of his sentence. She passed out. When Brian was sure there were no signs of life in her, he carried her in his arms, tiptoed to the garage, and dumped her in his car boot. Then he zoomed off. About 30 minutes later, Brian arrived at the village outskirts. He got down from his car, lifted Olivia out of the boot, and threw her on the floor. "That's what happens to crazy and senseless girls like you," he said, rushed into his car, and zoomed off. The next morning, the village was thrown into pandemonium when Olivia's body was discovered. When Linda heard about the tragedy that befell her daughter, she passed out. That evening, a quick burial was organized, and when the casket was opened, Linda noticed something that made her scream. Firstly, she saw a blister around Olivia's lips, and that was when she suspected that her daughter could have been poisoned. Looking closer, she noticed that Olivia's chest was moving up and down. Filled with fear and hope, Linda quickly grabbed her daughter's hands and felt a pulse. "She's alive! She's alive!" Linda screamed. Olivia was immediately rushed to a traditional healer who gave her an antidote that reversed the effect of the poison. Luckily for her, she didn't lose the baby. When Brian heard that Olivia had woken up and that the police were looking for him, he disguised himself as an old man and quickly fled the city. A few months later, Olivia heard a knock on her door, and it was John, staring at her with so much love in his eyes. "I'm sorry about what happened to you." "I'm so glad that you're alive," he said, staring at her bump. "I don't care whose child is in your stomach. I love you and I want to be with you. Please give me a chance," John said. And Olivia, who had now learned from a bitter experience, apologized to John for how she had treated him in the past and pulled him closer and hugged him. "I'm not a perfect woman, but I'm ready to learn and do anything to make you happy," she said. Olivia finally admitted that she had been playing a costly game all her life. She couldn't believe she had almost lost a great guy like Alex just because of her immature expectations and desires. She finally learned that there is no perfect person out there, and that sometimes what we're looking for could be right beside us, even if they don't come in the type of body or complexion we expect. Olivia finally understood that, in the end, what matters is finding someone who would love us through thick and thin. In due time, Olivia went into labor and delivered a boy who looked exactly like Alex, who turned out to be the real father of the child. What a beautiful surprise. I'm really keen to know your thoughts on this story, so please don't hesitate to share your insights in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video and found it engaging, I invite you to subscribe to our channel for more similar content. Feel free to share this video with your friends and family to spread the enjoyment. Take good care of yourselves, and I'm excited to connect with you in our future videos.